Here's an additional video on how to use the alcohol ink stamp brushes. You're going to start by picking the stamps that you like from the stamp pack. So I'm first going to go in, so pick a new stamp and pick a new color, and then you can put it wherever you want. I keep all of my shapes in separate layers so that I'm able to move them around and make it look exactly how I want it to look. So when I was making this, I wanted to do a Christmas one, but as I went forward, I wanted to play around with the colors and also be able to show you how to change things around once you have everything down and you feel like maybe you want some different colors. So I'm going to show that to you in the future part of this video. But for now, I'm just placing the different stamps and just kind of playing around with colors. And then once I have it all laid out the way I want it, I'm going to start blending. So I'm just going to fast forward through this part once I have all of my shapes and colors down that I like. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is with every layer I'm going to blend. So I'm going to go into my brush pack with all of my extra brushes, and I'm going to tap the pointer finger for blending, and I'm going to hit fill and blend, and this is what I'm going to use to blend my different layers. So what this can do is if you go really lightly and you kind of go back and forth, it's going to really move the color. But if you press and don't lift your brush and you just move it back and forth, you'll notice that it does a really light blending. So it's cool that you can have both. You can have you can go along the lines kind of where you see what I'm doing on the green, where I'm getting rid of that thick line and I'm able to blend the colors together. Now I'm going to go to this cream color. So right now I'm just going along the edge and just kind of shaking it back and forth and getting rid of that line. But then I can just press into it and just go back and forth, and that will really blend the color. And this will make it so that it looks less streaky and will make it look like it's more blended, because in alcohol ink art, when you're blowing with either a straw or with a blow dryer, when you're blowing around that alcohol ink with different colors, they'll start to blend together. And so this is what I'm trying to do when I layer the colors on top of each other. And I start blending the one. I'm not trying to blend both of them together, so that's why I do them on separate layers. I am trying to make it look like that color blended in to the other color, basically. And you can do this a few different ways. You could just go over top of it in a clipping mask and kind of draw over it and color it that way, but I just find that I like this way better because then it leaves those lines where the alcohol ink dried. So it's going to take practice and it's going to take time for you to really get the feel for how you want your art to look, because that's the beauty of alcohol ink art. There are so many ways that you can make it look, but you just have to make it look the way it's appealing to you. So for me, this is what I've started to really like. And so for me to get this look, the crucial thing is to always blend the edges, making sure that they're in separate layers. You don't want to put all your stamps down on one layer and then start blending them all together. You want to keep those distinct dried lines that really give alcohol ink that really unique look that it has. Okay, so I'm gonna just speed up this little section of me blending all the edges because it's just the same thing over and over again, just me going into a new layer, figuring out which edges I want blended, and how much, and so I'll just fast forward this part and then I'll show you the next part. Okay, so I've blended all of my layers separately. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to take a color and a stamp, an alcohol ink stamp, and then I'm going to take the blending brush. So tap on the pointer, and then you can go around on all the edges, and I'm going to make it look like it's been blown off the page. So there's not a whole lot of dried lines in this one. It's not super saturated. The ones that I like to put underneath, I like to make them look really wispy and really airy, and so that's the look that I'm going for underneath. So I'm going to keep playing around, putting different colors underneath and blending them out, and sometimes I'll just change the color, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit further ahead. But for now, just put down your colors in different layers. The bottom layers we're just going to really blend out. So light touches with the stylus with this blender will make really small blends. They'll look kind of streaky, but that gets rid of that solid line. And then when you press into the iPad and you do not lift, and you just keep going back and forth without lifting, it will really blend all of that together. If you like how everything looks, you can leave it. Or if you want to go and play around with the colors, you can go into each layer separately and change the colors. Or if you want to just see what happens, you can go and swipe them all to the right, all your layers, hit group and flatten it, and then you can go and tap that magic wand and then hit hue, saturation, and brightness, and then you can just start pulling it back and forth on the top bar and seeing what the colors look like. Or you can go to color balance and pull that, and this one's actually fun for me because it sometimes makes the colors look even more contrasted, so it looks like you used even more colors and blended them on paper. And so this is how I got the final look for my piece, was playing around with this setting. So it's really fun because you can get some really cool colors. So I landed on these colors. And so what I'm going to do now that I've decided on the colors that I like is put a new layer above it, and I'm going to go into the other pack with my alcohol inks and go into the bubbles or alcohol drops. So with real alcohol ink art, you can take alcohol and kind of splash it on your paper, and it will create these really cool circles with these dark edges, and they'll all kind of have their own look, but this is what we're going to be recreating with this brush. That circle or the color selector is brought up by tapping that square in between your size and opacity sliders. And so what you do is you will pick the color that you want to start making those splashes on, and then this will allow you to match that color. And so I'm just going with my size bar up and down and just picking different sizes so that it really mimics splashes basically. And so I'm going to just do this for all the color that's similar. And then for my next color, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tap that square in between the size bar and the opacity bar, and it'll bring up that circle that you just saw. And then I can go over the next color. And sometimes you'll see that it goes really white. So sometimes you might want to just tap a few different times until you get that kind of lighter look. You can go for that really white look that kind of makes it look like the alcohol spread all the color out and you're just seeing the paper. But sometimes it's nice to just get that light look so that you're still seeing the color. And so I'll just keep doing this with the different colors, tapping that square in the middle of those sliders and tapping over a color, and that will select that color to be worked on next. And then again, just changing the size and tapping different sizes of splashes, and this really makes it look realistic. I'll show you a close-up of how it looks with that kind of brownish color in the bottom right. So when you tap on it lightly, you can get that really light color that still shows the color through, but kind of shows you the paper below a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to create a new layer. We're going to get a black color. We're going to get our thick and thin gold lines. You'll see it's not gold, but you'll understand why in a second. So I'm going to put pressure and then lift the pressure to make thin and thick lines. So as I press down, it'll make thicker lines, and as I do less pressure, it'll make those thin lines. And so what I'm trying to recreate here is in alcohol art ink, when you're putting that gold fleck down, it's going to naturally be attracted to the areas that are really saturated with color, because it's raised more off the page. It's basically blocking it, so it all kind of puddles up into that area. And so anywhere that you see lines, dark lines, from the alcohol ink drying, there's more product there, there's more color there, and so it's going to have the gold pool up. And so that's what I'm trying to create with these gold lines, or they're black for now, but they will be gold, is I'm following where there are dark lines. If you go and look at alcohol ink art, with that gold, you'll see that it follows those thick, concentrated areas. You can put it wherever you want, because if you were to do it in real life, I'm sure you could put it down and then dry it in the spot you want it. But when you're just kind of blowing it around and letting it lie where it wants to lie, these are the spots that it's going to go, is in these more concentrated areas where the color's raised off the page, where it dried more. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new layer above that, and I'm going to go into my brush set and get the small gold splatter. And what this is going to be recreating is the gold flecks that kind of fall aside, that kind of dry a little bit away from those concentrated areas. And so I'm just kind of following the line, but you can put these little flecks wherever you want them to, and they're not going to show up incredibly strong, because we're going to be going over top of them. So put the flecks wherever you want, and then I'm going to go into the gold splatter, and this is going to make just really, really defined flecks of gold that kind of fell aside from those really concentrated areas. And then now we're going to add that gold over top. And so the gold brush reacts to color differently, and so we're not just going to go and pick any gold color. We're going to go into our palette in a little bit, but first we're going to add a new layer above. So tap that plus sign above the layer you want to work on. So we're going to do the thick and thin lines first, so create a new layer, then tap that layer, so the layer 9, tap it, and it's going to bring up this list, and now you're going to hit clipping mask. And this is going to make your gold brush go over top of everywhere that those thick and thin lines are. I'm going to tap the black color at the top right. It's going to open up the color wheel, and I'm going to hit palettes at the bottom right and hit default on my alcohol ink palette that comes with this brush set, and I'm going to hit one of those 4 gold colors at the bottom. So I already had my gold brush selected, but you're going to go back into that brush pack and get the gold overlay brush, and then in that clipping mask layer you're just going to start pulling the gold all over the black thick and thin lines, and we're going to do the same thing with the splatters. And if you don't love the color, if it seems too light at first, I'll show you how to go in and change it. So tapping that magic wand, you're going to go in and hit hue, saturation, brightness. And then what you can do is you can play around with that slider bar and make it a little bit more gold, or a little bit more rose gold, or you can make the color more saturated, or you can make it darker or a little bit lighter. Okay, so now we're going to go into our layer, and above our speckles or our splatters, we're going to create a new layer by hitting the plus sign and hitting clipping mask, and then go into the gold overlay brush, not that far, and then we're going to pick a gold color. You can pick one from there, or you can just kind of go into a dark gold and then just start going over top of all of those speckles, splatters, um, parts that drifted away from the main line. And then same thing, if you get this done and you want to make it a little bit more saturated, you can change the color the same way that we did the thick and thin lines. Alright, so I'm happy with the way that it looks, so I'm going to just go and grab a basic brush. I'm just going to use my elliptic brush that I made, and I will write "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." And that was my tutorial on how to make realistic digital alcohol ink art on your iPad in Procreate. If you don't already have this brush set, you can head to my Etsy. The link will be down in the description, and you can get this set for yourself. And when you make something, please tag me. I would love to see what you guys make. You can tag me at Blush River Design. Have a great day.